course, yeah. That's important. I forget your name, sir.
I mean,
Eric,
yeah.
Eric, okay, Eric and Janine, Katie. Saskia, chief, I'm the captain. So if you have a lot of questions, we'll be here till 7, happy to do that. If not, we'll get through the material and we'll end whenever we end. So this is our community meeting about the annual report. If you don't have a copy of it, I have extras over there on the corner of the annual report. And then I also have 2 red line copies of the inventory at the back table. So those are things that we are asking for changes to the inventory when we go to council on the 10th. And that's just the red line version of what is in the council report, but you guys don't have access to it yet until it gets published, but it's right there. It's the same things that are in the annual report. It obviously just actually moves the items around already for you. All right. So Eric, you came last year.
Yep.
Janine, you've come before, but I'm still going to go through what the requirements of AB 41 are for the people who might be watching this recording later. So AB 41, which was passed back in 2021, I believe, and then enacted for 2022. It basically requires that a city's local council has to approve our military equipment policy and then approve an ordinance. And that ordinance has to be annually reviewed by council and readopted every year. In addition, AB 41 requires the agency to publish an annual report. And so that's the thing that was posted on our website. And the annual report has to include how equipment was used in that prior year, any maintenance and other costs of the equipment, internal audits, meaning do we have any IAs or internal affairs complaints? Do we have any violations of policy? And then any community feedback on the use of those equipments in the prior year. And then again, when we go to council on March 10th, annually, we have to get council's approval if we want to purchase or acquire any new equipment. So even if the equipment was going to be given to us for free somewhere, we still have to have council's approval to acquire it if it meets one of the categories of military equipment. So again, it was initially enacted in 2022. Part of the policy does require that you have to have your policy on the website 30 days prior to the public hearing, which we did in 2022. And then the governing body, our council, has to look at that at a council meeting and make the ordinance approval. Our annual report that we have to do annually has to be on our law enforcement agency's webpage where it needs to remain as long as the equipment is still in use. We do keep our last report still up there, so all of our reports from 2022 on are still on our website. And the 2025 one, we published it on February 4th. The law requires that within 30 days of posting it, we need to have a well-publicized public meeting, which is what we're doing today. And then we have to take it to council after that. That is scheduled to go on March 10th. This annual report will get presented at council. Any questions so far on anything on the background? Okay, so this year's report that was posted online, our usage. The only usage we had of any of our military equipment outside of training was our drones. And that was not our drone as first responder because that program hasn't launched yet. It was our static drones that we have to take out to scenes. And we used them a total of 17 times when they were adopted in April all the way through December. And in the annual report, it breaks down how those drones were used. So I believe some were used in home burglaries, car accidents, a fire. And then we did some outside agency assists where we helped Palo Alto with investigation of a dead body they found. And we also helped our own internal departments such as Public Works when they needed to do roof inspections. So 17 times the drone was used. We did not receive any complaints about the use of our military equipment. We saw no policy violations in our use. Here's a little bit different from, I believe this was a request of Blair last year. So we did do some of the work on this year. Maintaining the equipment costs us about $4,800 a year, and that's just for new pieces for the different military equipment. We have to do repairs on them, but then we also were instructed, and we were wrong, that we were supposed to include the cost of training as part of AB 41, and we did not realize that. So this year we did include the annual cost for training related to our military equipment. And so the total cost that we put in the report was $318,851. Let me do a caveat on that, and I did put the caveat in the annual report. We went with basically the highest number it could possibly be because of the fact that we have different people at different pay rates. We went with the top scale officer pay for the training hours. We do have sergeants who make more than that, and we do have officers that make significantly less than that. They're newer, so that evened it out. And we also did the overtime rate. Now, not all of our officers train on overtime. So if we have 4 officers assigned to a team and there's a training that day, one of those officers could go on regular time and not cost the city anything. However, the other ones will be going on overtime. So this is likely a gross overestimate of what the training costs actually were, but we wanted to at least give what the highest could have been on that. Majority of that, if you looked at the table at the back, was a lot of it was our SWAT training. And then also training for our rifles, because anytime they go to range and shoot the rifles, that's hours of training there is on the rifles. And then our drone training, we have 7 drone pilots, so we had to go through a full training. So not only did they go to the 40-hour training, then they also have done additional 8-hour training days. So that added up to a lot when you have 7 operators, each going to a full week's class and then having 2 additional 8-hour days, added a lot for our drone program. I don't think this is too much when we look at our total training budget. It was within our funds. We didn't have to ask for additional funds to cover this. It's covered by salary. And as you guys know, a lot of the equipment that we have in this policy is high liability equipment, whether it's rifles or drones or anything else that's in there. So making sure our officers are fully trained in the equipment and know how to use it correctly, we feel like it's a good investment of money in order to get them trained. I would rather have this than say, ooh, this costs a lot of money next year, let's cut this in half. And then our officers aren't as fully trained on the equipment. So 318,000, so a total of about 322,000 was the total cost for the equipment last year. And then our quantity that we possess of all of our inventory is listed in the policy 709. At the back, it's updated as of November 2025, when we got permission to add the additional drones. Okay, so what is new for this year as part of the report is anything we're going to go to council and ask for, we are presenting in the annual report. We are asking for one new piece of equipment. It's called a Throwbot 2. It's made by Recon Robotics. It basically is a small, it's called a mini robot. It's about this large. It's able to be thrown through a window or a doorway. It has video and audio capabilities, so it can roll through either indoor or outdoor and provide recon to the operators on that little screen that you see. That's the remote that operates it, and then also gives the operators the visual of what's going on inside a home. Typically would be used for a barricade situation or even a welfare check. If we're not getting an answer at the door and we maybe had to call a shots fired, we might send the robot in first just to go through the rooms and see and make sure what the threat might be inside before we send officers inside. So it is a de-escalation tool to prevent officers from forcing entry and then forcing a confrontation. If we have the robot go in first and clear an area, then hopefully we would have a better idea of what they're going into. Cost is about 19,000. We're only asking for one of them, and we have funding through a COPS grant, which has to be used for police equipment, so it does not impact the general fund budget. So that's the one item we are asking for new this year. And the category it goes under is robotics. It's the AB41 one. A couple other inventory changes that you would see in the red line version. We want to remove a couple items from the inventory to make it up to date. The less lethal shotguns, we got rid of those out of the inventory when we brought in the 40 mils instead as a less lethal tool. We had 11 less lethal shotguns. We're reducing that to 1. We actually already have, the other 10 are gone out of our inventory. That one less lethal shotgun has already been converted for the chemical agent munition deployment. So it has a special tool on the end that it can be used to deliver the chemical munitions through the use of the chem shotgun, which is already approved by council. We also are getting rid of the less lethal shotgun rounds. They were called the super soft beanbag rounds because we're not using it as a less lethal tool anymore. We don't need the rounds. So the rounds have been gotten rid of. And then the last one is the Benelli shotgun. That had been in our inventory for many, many years, just sitting there. We finally got rid of it. I believe we either sold it back to LC Action. I'm not sure if we disposed of it. I'm not 100% sure, but I know it's not part of our inventory any longer. And then replacement items. What we're asking for is an increase in ammunition. The 223 ammunition, we're looking for an increase to 42,000 rounds. I believe right now it's at 10,800. The reason for that increase is last year we got approval for the rifles to be individually issued to each officer. That requires our officers to go to at least one full day range training on their new rifle that's individually cited to them, which includes a lot of shooting of the rifle through an 8-hour day. For that, and then now they have their own rifle, so that's also for additional training for the year. And then the second increase would be in our 308 ammunition. I think right now it sits at around 3,000, and we're looking to go to 3,300, so about an increase of 300 rounds a year. And the second thing on that is right now we give a brand designation for the brand of ammunition. So we say this specific ammunition. However, that really limits us, because if that ammunition happens to be in short supply and we can't get it, then we can't order any other ammunition. So we're looking to remove the brand designation and just put in 308 ammunition instead of having a specific brand title. And those are our changes we are asking for. So now, obviously, we have lots of time to think of that in 12 minutes. So I am happy to answer any questions, go over anything that you have additional thoughts on, because we still have 40 something minutes left.
I have
Eric,
one
yes.
request, one question, 2 comments.
Okay.
Request, I think the report should include the inventory.
You think the what should?
The report, the annual.
Oh, the report?
Should include the inventory, not by reference. And there are 2 reasons for that.
Okay.
One is, the document in the policy is a point in time inventory.
Okay.
The one in the report ought to be from beginning of year to end of year. So it's different inventory potential. And number 2, if you go back to the 2022 report, you don't know what the inventory was.
Oh, what the changes were from year to year.
What the inventory was.
Yeah.
You can look at requirement number 5 on the on AB, whatever the number is the quantity processed, for each type of military equipment in the report. Requirement number 5, it must be in the report by law. It's probably going to be different sometimes from what's current. Here we need it for history, so that's the requirement.
So we can post that like on the website then too with.
In the same PDF.
He wants it as a part of the annual report to include the inventory at the back of the report is what the inventory is at the timestamp when the annual report was done.
Or actually, I would prefer cover the whole year. We need to know for the year 2025. We have all these things, maybe some of them are only part of the year. Right?
So anytime we change inventory, we have to go to council. So it would only have changed if council had approved any change. So let me just clarify something real quick. So like
quite the requirement from
the inventory is in there?
Requirement number 5. The annual military equipment report show at the minimum include blah blah blah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the quantity processed for each type of military equipment. I did not write it, it's right there.
Okay.
The argument goes back, I mean, for different reasons,
Yeah.
what he's citing, but we've raised that before where we don't like the fact that the inventory is an appendix because it's not governed the same. An appendix is not governed the same as the body of the report. And given that you're not updating that inventory formally in the appendix, you're only making a change to that once a year. It's difficult for a lot, and matter of fact, one of the questions that I had was that people had trouble correlating this to the report. They thought it was a separate thing. And I clarified for them that it isn't, it's part, if you go to the actual law, AB 41, and I gave them the link, you can see that they're one. And they say, well, why do they separate them? So this goes back to, we have different reasons. It's just that we want that whole thing adjudicated at once. And given that you only have to do it once a year, it doesn't seem like it's that onerous. There have been a couple of cases of other agencies where they separate it this way. They call it an appendix, or they call it an accessory, or they call it other names. And then they don't feel that they need to run that through council. So you guys don't do that.
No.
But by separating it, it kind of opens that door for whatever,
But we don't call it an appendix, we call it an attachment, and the only reason we do that is because Lexipol, altering Lexipol is not the easiest thing in the world to go in and make changes to things. The software on it is not fantastic. If I do it as an attachment, as a Word doc, and then include it each year as an attachment, it's a much smoother process than trying to make changes in Lexipol. So it's not an appendix, it's an attachment to the policy.
Okay, from a public
Yeah.
perception though, they seem separate. So if there's some way that, your back end, how you're
Mhm.
doing it in the back end to ease your manipulation of Flock, which is a whole other issue by itself, but I mean, not Flock, Lexipol, is one thing, and you have to do what you need to do, but in terms of how you present it to the public, if you can somehow conjoin those and make sure that they're very clearly interlinked, that would help a lot of people not only understand, but then believe that you are following the law.
So having it, because we do try to put it on our website, the redlined inventory, is that not clear to people that it's the inventory? Because I put
It's
policy
not,
709 inventory.
I got it, and yes, you do,
Okay.
but I'm biased because I understand this.
Yeah.
But people that don't understand it, or it's the first time they're coming to it, they just see them as separate policies, and they're not. They're interlinked, in fact, they are the same policy, they're not even interlinked, they're the same policy, it's the same law.
Mhm.
So there's gotta be some way that you can present it that way, without changing your actual mechanics
Yeah.
of how you manipulate the data and interact with council. But to the public, they can very clearly see one thing is perhaps in this report that you make, which you have a digital version of it, there could be a link directly to the appendix, and then here, a link directly to the policy. And, because the linkage has to happen between the wording of the policy and the attachment, they're calling it an attachment. That interlink needs to be invisible to the public so that they understand that it's the same policy.
So I'm gonna go back to yours, Eric, because your request is that the inventory is not attached, is a part of the annual report.
There is an inventory in the annual report, whether it's the same word as the one in support of the policy.
So you mean in this document?
The 17-page
document. That, yeah, that's what Manupa, Mountain Dew, Sunnyvale, Palo Alto, and Santa Clara do. So we can check how they read, in particular, that the report from Santa Clara.
There are some agencies that do it that way.
So the other thing I just want to clarify, because you had said that you wanted something that showed difference between the beginning and the end of the year inventory. So I just want to clarify that real quick, because like, for example, the ammunition, when we put an inventory for sample that we have, it's might say 3,100 rounds.
Right.
That is the maximum amount that council is allowing us to have in the inventory. We may have less than that because we go shoot it and then we might order more. So we don't have to put any changes in quantity. We just can't exceed the maximum of what's in the policy.
I think for ammunition, the maximum will be fine.
Okay.
It's what I'd like to see really is there was this tool, and we had it the whole year. This other tool, we started to have it from June 1st until the end of the year, and then for each one, just say that. That would be a complete picture of what is available. And for ammunition, yes, the maximum number is fine.
And then would it be helpful, because we have all the previous years of, the annual reports on our website. Would it be helpful now to go back and get the corresponding inventory list so you can see?
No, don't go back, don't touch back documents that have already been published.
Don't touch what?
Documents
that
are already
have
published.
been published. That's
Oh, no,
what-
no, I'm
I'm
just
just
gonna
not saying that, so just pump additionally.
post the inventory that correlates with that year.
Somewhere, but it's not going to be in the report. Personally, I don't.
So you, Eric, so this would have to be honest with you, starting in 2026,
That's fine.
because the annual report's already been published this year, but you're
That's fine.
saying moving forward in 2026. That inventory, not the red line, because that's the changes that we want, what our current inventory is, would be
So
attached
you
to
can
that.
make current or history of the year.
Yeah, I don't.
And I mean, we're
that's-
willing to go back to it, post it online too with the correlated year. If you'd like to go back to, 2023 and see what the inventory was at that, during that year.
at this point, it's what I'm.
Okay, so that was your request. You had a
It's the request.
question?
Question is in two parts.
Okay.
So one is on the, take for example, Wi-Fi. So you said that not being used. Does it mean that they stayed in the car
Which,
or that they were taken out maybe, but not filed? But just to be clear.
so the rifles have only been used in training. It's not to say if an officer takes a rifle out for a call and slings it around their shoulder and walks to a call, but never utilizes it, never points it at anybody, it does not count as a usage.
I'm not happy at all with that way of using. When I see the rifle on somebody's back and I'm in the street, that affects me. For me, that's it.
It's called brandishing versus pointing.
Brandishing, slinging a rifle is not brandishing a rifle.
A lot of people interpret it that way. I get what you're
Yeah,
saying.
By law, it's not a usage.
Yeah,
It's not, and the problem is, well,
can you point us to that definition so that we can clarify that once and
I
for all?
cannot right now, but I can look it up. But the other thing to be aware of is that rifles, we don't even need to include them in the annual report anymore because they're individually issued. We are including them just because we've had them there in the past, right? So, and that's the only one that would be brandished at someone in all of these that you're saying, like. But to try to track the number of times that an officer takes a rifle out. The thing is that an officer takes a rifle out because there might be a burglary call and somebody reports that they saw somebody with a rifle and go inside a house.
Let me ask you a
Yeah.
question though. Is it typical procedure for, given that now they're standard equipment, right? And you know that, right?
Yeah.
They're standard equipment by virtue of the fact that every officer
Is
gets
issued
one. Is it standard procedure then that anytime they are on a call that where there might be a suspect, you know, not like for a kitten or something like that, but for a suspect, that they will take their rifle with them?
No.
So what?
So
is
like the
it
policy
saying?
states in there that if they have any indication that there's somebody in a suspect who has a firearm, maybe involved in something, then they have the choice to take the rifle with them.
Okay.
But if they're going to, like I said, if they were just going to a burglary call, they're not typically gonna sling their rifle to
Okay.
go respond to a burglary call. They're gonna have their handgun out. But if they have a call of somebody who's barricaded in a vehicle or barricaded in a house and we don't know what the weapon is, if we have multiple officers, one's gonna have a less lethal option like a taser or 40 mil, one's probably gonna have a handgun and one might be having the rifle out. Because then they can have a shot from farther away, or if that suspect were to brandish a higher power firearm, then they would have something to respond with. So is it something that comes out all the time? No, it isn't used, I would say, on a daily basis. They probably not even taken out on a weekly basis. However, I think having a rifle around someone's shoulder when they respond to a call for service is not a usage of the rifle.
Okay, so if you could take the action to, so we could settle that once and for all of people that ask about that kind of thing. How we define, you know, a declarable or recordable, you carrying that weapon. And I know that because it's standard issue now, you don't have to include it in the report. But, I would probably suggest that at least for a few years until people get comfortable with the idea that every cop has an assault rifle, that we might wanna just, you know, provide that courtesy if possible, not to the nth degree, but at least in general. So that people, I think what you're trying to say is that if you see a cop with a automatic rifle, that by itself is going to have a negative effect on you or on other people. And I'm not gonna disagree with that.
Negative or not, it's influencing.
It's what?
It's potentially influencing. people's
So
lives.
even if we were to say a rifle was taken out of the vehicle 30 times this year, how does that change? How does that impact the annual report as far as military equipment moving forward? Like, how is that gonna help council make any decisions? How is it gonna help the officers make
I can
decisions?
come up with a scenario, which is, the correlation between having a weapon. And this relates to one of the big that came up multiple times, has to do with, chemical munitions.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm not gonna talk about, but it's very analogous to this. There are correlations that you can draw, not necessarily causations, but correlations you can draw between the presence of a weapon and the actual use of the weapon. and the severity of the crime. So, so the example is, if it becomes customary for the purposes under the guise of police safety, the safety to the police person, that they have their assault rifle with them, or if they're in pair, at least one of them has the assault rifle. And so you have that, if they did that 30 times last year, they just did it. But when you look at the crime stats and you look at the stop records and you look at the house visits, and you cannot really tie that to the severity of the reason for having those incidents, then that gives people a sense of discomfort that, well, cops are just brandishing this thing and they don't really need to. And so this relates more directly to the issue of chemical munitions, which will be another thing I'm going to bring up, because that's what a lot of people were concerned about, that more than about the rifles.
But that's not something that's being changed or presented at the county report.
But yeah, I know, but they still see this venue as a way to say, hey, why do we have this? It's probably the first time they've seen it, right? They don't understand that. They're not only focused on the red lines, they didn't even know the red lines existed. They were focusing on what we have here. Mm-hmm. And anyways, back to the rifle thing. The way it can become important is if your cops are brandishing, and it's because of the kind of city we are. We're not a high crime city, right? We don't have we don't have that characteristic, although some people think that we do, but we really don't. But if our cops make it a habit of always carrying around their rifles, and that can't be correlated to either their safety or to the public safety in terms of the kind of crime we have, people that are already set against the militarization of the police are going to have a concern about that. And it's a natural concern. It's not an irrational concern. It's a correlation that you draw in your head. So, especially since I haven't seen it before. I mean, I have never seen one of our cops carrying a rifle.
Because they don't often.
Right,
We don't get those calls very, and that's where I think, I could put in the report, if we had people have to track every time they took the rifle out of the car, my annual report is gonna require me to say 30 times the rifle was taken out of the car, but that's all that's required. It doesn't require me to say on these specific calls for service, this is what it was used for. It just is how many times was that weapon used.
Do you expect your cops to report that they took their rifle in the call?
Absolutely not.
It's their judgment.
It's their judgment. Because the other thing is, if, let's say, even if we had to, or you saw someone with a rifle, and so you went online later and looked at our crime thing to see what was happening in that area, and you saw a hit and run, why didn't an officer have a rifle out and hit and run? You don't have the rest of the details that officer may have had that came through the radio, that it was a hit and run and somebody brandished a gun at someone as they drove away. And so there's other details that we have to trust our officers are making the right call. But if you look and say, oh, they had a rifle out on hit and run, well, that's ridiculous, but you don't have all the information that the officers had. We trust them to make good choices with the tools that they take out. The rifle is not an easy thing to carry around. It's heavy, it's awkward, it gets in the way of your other tools. They don't take them out excessively because of that reason. They take them out when they feel they may be necessary, which is rare.
Yeah.
It is rare that they do so. We also have the ability, if somebody has a concern, and Eric, you see an officer with a rifle slung, you can certainly call the police department and ask and inquire. I saw an officer with a rifle out today. I'd just like to know more information about why they had that. Absolutely. We had a call with this and someone had a rifle, and that would possibly even be something that if it was a complaint that you had, it would be tracked in this as citizen complaints or citizen concerns about the usage of a tool. It would then be reported here that if officers are using it excessively and you're seeing rifles out on a daily or weekly basis, and we're getting reports of that from citizens of concern,
That's
then
excellent.
that's a way,
Thank you.
right, for us to get that feedback.
Yeah, that's great.
I don't think they're using it excessively.
A little bit of reason for
Yes.
my part. I wanted to get the clarification of what it means to be used or not. Okay?
Yeah.
With my understanding that I see it out, it's not the case, that's fine. It would be great if you could clarify that somewhere in the report.
Explain.
I not use neon
Okay.
has not been
For
tried.
this use.
I can't put that in the report, but I can talk about it at council.
Or somehow, describe that.
Yes.
That's number one. Number two, I took the rifles as an example, but it applies to everything,
Mhm.
right? And, when I look at the last 4 years, it says nothing has been used for the public.
And training.
And so I am starting to think, well, if we don't use this thing for 4 years, and probably we haven't used them before, why do we need them?
Okay, I get
Can
that
you
point.
tell me, no, we need them, right?
I
So-
get what you're saying. So I
You
see.
see how it makes disconnect there between
Yeah.
the way, it's more about clarifying what is done and not so much about asking for something else to be done. Okay,
Yes, I understand your point.
so that was
Okay.
the question, the clarification.
So I could certainly, moving forward in annual reports, as far as rifles are concerned, include information that our officers did not use the rifle in any instances of patrol. However, the rifle were deployed, or would that be the right word? I can find the right word.
Deployment is shooting it.
Deploying the street. So
Yeah.
find the right word and just say, officers removed their rifles and responded to calls for these types of incidents.
Cause they're locked in the car, they're locked
locked.
in a.
That's our policy, they have to be.
They have to be locked, right? They
Yes.
can't just put them next to themselves
No.
on a seat, they have to be locked. So, I think that, that. If we let people understand that rifle isn't just there for brandishing whenever.
And again, it's not just rifle, I am not burglar, so I'm not going to come at me with a rifle, typically. I am going to protest. You are going to come at me with chemical stuff. Maybe. If I see you with something that can all things at me, I'm maybe discouraged. You need to make protest.
At a protest, we are not allowed to use chemical agents at a
Or
protest.
whatever it is.
That's not
I,
allowed.
I know
Hey,
policy
hey.
says that.
the policy may say, it once, I see people.
Our chemical agents in our community, we only have a couple. We have actually one trained chemical agent officer on the SWAT team. Our chemical agents are specifically designed for SWAT barricades, hostage rescue. It's not for purpose.
Less lethal stuff,
Yeah.
or whatever it is, okay? You watch the TV like I do, you know what I do. What I'm talking about. So it's not just rifle.
And did you have, I know you had a couple of questions, but you had
Yeah, I
anything
have
else?
two more comments. So one is, in today's climate, it seems to me that minimizing the inventory is a must. And, I saw in the, old inventory, I think, or somewhere,
Mhm.
That items number 5, the Benelli and Truth, 90.
Yeah.
And item number 6, and then 870, something like that. You don't care about that. I think we should get rid of them physically. I'm much happier with something that physically doesn't exist than something that's on the left. I've noticed that one of the two you already said
Mhm.
is going to get it, but in general, I took those two because they were.
Yes, and we put on that
I
they're not
would
used.
go for everything. Yeah,
The reason on
very conservative.
that one, I can't remember the word for it. Basically, if the weapon was seized from a certain person, we cannot get rid of that one Remington. And my range guys would know the term for it, but legally, we cannot sell it or destroy it. And I can't remember the name, we just have to basically keep it in our inventory and it's not usable, but
That Remington was seized?
I don't remember so I don't remember the word is for it. It's not
Sequester?
conserved. I'm trying to think if Josh should tell me what the term is, if I text him right now. There's a classification that one weapon falls under that does not allow us to sell it at any time. So we're kind of stuck with just protecting it and make sure it doesn't get in the wrong hands, but we cannot sell it or destroy it because of that. And I'm gonna text my range guy right now,
So,
just,
I took those two only because it was clear from the,
Yeah.
what I see on that you don't want to do.
Mhm.
And so, but my comment applies to everything. The more you can minimize,
Mhm.
is better, happier, okay? Because you may be good guys today, but tomorrow you may turn into bad guy without chance. Okay? You know, the National Guard has, okay? So I want to help him.
Yeah.
Not be that bad.
And that's why,
Minimize what happens.
that's why last year we still had we still had the less lethals in. It takes a while to do the paperwork to get rid of them. So when we put in there, these aren't being used, but they're still remaining in our inventory. Until we actually physically get them out of our building and away, we don't remove them from the inventory because we want to be transparent. So yes, they're not being utilized, but yes, they are in inventory because we have to do the correct paperwork to sell it back or dispose of them correctly. And one more,
So one more,
yes,
last one. I have no problem with whatever amount of training you decide you need,
Mhm.
given the tools that's obviously on my way. Where I wish we could do something differently is instead of you saying, we need this tool, that tool, that tool.
And we need what?
The
This
tools,
tool,
different tools.
That tool, that gun, that thing,
Mhm.
we need all of that, which I understand. The point is that you are balanced, okay? If there is tomorrow something happening at the high school, and something really bad happens, and you did not have the tool to deal with it, you are going to be really blamed for it,
Mhm.
right? So you are going to be conservative. That's perfectly normal. But I think there has to be a balance between the risks where we need to do that as a community and the tool we need to achieve that level of risk, no more. And so I think the way I would really love to see things is you propose what you think or you describe, we can get this level of risk and we need those tools, we can get this higher level of risk and we need fewer tools. Give a bunch of options and the community to decide. Now, the community is two people. Yeah, so it's a pipe job. But that's the spirit I'd like to.
I represent about 45 people right now.
Well, they decided not to come. Still the same. They are not online, still the same.
No, I understand what you're saying, and I understand you think we're biased, and we feel like we need the 40 mils, and we need this, and you disagree, and that's fine, I understand that you disagree.
I do not disagree. I'm saying you have to err on the side of no.
The
And
liability.
That's perfectly normal.
Yeah.
Right? That's why you are pushed to go by
Yes,
other people in the community. I wish the community was better at choosing the risk. It's willing to accept in exchange for pure.
The reason the reason that response, I mean, other than the apathy is not ill-founded, I will say that, okay? Because some people will work towards what is the most negative thing that can happen and try to prevent that. And others will see, hey, nothing's happening, so I'm not gonna worry about it. And so that's why I'm saying it's kind of, there's a rationale behind the apathy, right? And the thing is though, is that we're living in a time right now where more than, we never used to get these kinds of emails, to be honest. Now we're getting random emails of inquiry because our brand is getting out, but, so people may not want to join us, but they do want us to answer questions for them. And as you see, they didn't show up. So now they're using us as proxies. I'm a little frustrated by that. I'm sorry I have to air that here, but at the public. But, at the end of the day, if we lived in a community where there was more terrible things going on, or there were more terrible police doing things that people would say, hey, that's not right, like what we see on TV, then I guarantee you the apathy would wane. The apathy would wane, people would start to speak up. We're not a silent community, and our students aren't silent, right? So I think that's probably one of the sources, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't speak up. It's our duty to speak up, and I'm glad you're here. So anyways, was that your last
That's
question?
enough.
Okay, because I have a bunch. Sorry. And if you run out of time, you can just let me know. I'm just kind of going down this list. So first of all, I'm going to take the ones that didn't. These are the ones out of my notes from the.
you should ask your questions first since you came,
Okay.
just saying.
Well, I kind of know you guys, so I think I can get my questions answered. But anyways, let's okay, we'll do mine first. First, having to do with the replacements and the increase in ammunition, the regular ammunition. While I saw the red lines here, I didn't see the associated increase in cost with those. I know you have.
So we put in what the cost is per like round, and that doesn't change, so like. So if we have 10,000 rounds at $1 a round, or 42,000 rounds, there's still $1 a round. It
Okay, so
doesn't
that
impact,
doesn't change?
the
Okay.
price of it doesn't change, so I have to include the price per item. Not the total cost to the city, because that's covered under our city budget. We're not asking council for more money to purchase this stuff. Our ammo budget is the same this year as it was last year. And the year before that.
Okay,
So I'm not going to council asking for additional
So-
funds to buy more.
I got you. So I see the cost per round.
Mhm.
Where'd it go? I was just looking at it. Oh, $1.50 per round for 308. Why am I missing the cost per round on the 223, the 5.56 millimeter, the rifle ammunition?
About the survey rifle.
I can't see it. So help me out there.
She's getting the inventory real quick.
So the one where you're raising from 3,000 to 3,300, I see
Yeah.
that $1.50 per round. It's item
Oh,
two.
my eyes are not gonna do well on this. Okay, hold on. I'm getting old. Oh, they are rifles. So it is item. It was under 3, which became 2, so it's gonna be on 1, 2, 3, page 4. And it is II, 223 caliber rounds. Cost $280 per case of 500 rounds. And then I put the quantity in.
Got it,
Got
got it. Thank you. I was
Yeah.
looking per round, so my eyes were.
On my eye, can hardly see this too. I get it.
Okay, now on the removing of the brand,
Yes.
and that was one of my questions, and one person did ask about that.
Yeah.
They're coming from the idea of, oh yeah, you're buying generic ammunition
Oh.
and it's untraceable and
Oh.
this and the other thing. And my concern was, I understand what you're saying, that way you don't have to ask council, but I'm coming from the fact that I want you to ask council.
So here's the
So-
thing, if I have to go and buy, like, our SWAT team has to go out and go to training and they need rounds for their gun to go train. And they try to order more rounds and they're like, oh, we're out of, whatever that brand is that's in here. The ammo company says, we're out of Spear Gold right now, but we have a comparable one and it is called this. Instead, it's the same type of ammunition, it's just a different company who makes it. I wouldn't be able to purchase it currently because council hasn't approved this other brand. It's the same ammunition. It's still a 308 round. It's just, I have a name here of Spear Gold Dot as opposed to Winchester Silver or whatever it might be. I can't buy that, even though it might be completely out of this, and now I don't have the right ammunition for my sniper team to train until I can get back to council and get them to approve a name change in the ammunition brand. I think it's,
I get that. I
Yeah.
get that scenario you're facing. The question is, why are you facing that scenario? Because shouldn't your annual purchase cover your training needs for the whole year?
yeah, but if we purchase it and we contact them to purchase, and we don't purchase all of it at the same time
That's my
necessarily.
question. Why aren't you purchasing it all? Isn't that, don't you get the best price by purchasing it all?
We just put it in order, absolutely, we just put it in order, actually this week for for this fiscal year for our ammunition. Yes, we get the best price that way. But if we have some additional training class that our snipers go to and they've used up their ammunition and we need to purchase more to restock it because they had an opportunity to go to a certain class, we don't know what classes our snipers are gonna go to through the year. Different classes come up at different times. We have to bring our own ammo to those. So now we have to replenish it midway through the year. So yes, we typically buy all our ammo at the same time. However, there's been times that 223 ammo was in short supply and we had to wait 6 months for it to come in. And we had to alter our range training dates because we didn't have enough ammunition for our officers to train. We don't want that to be the case. We want to be able to say, okay, I understand you don't have this brand. Can you give us this brand instead, which is comparable round?
So why are you only asking for the sniper rifle exception, but not on the other?
I don't know that the other one had the name of the round. It didn't. It just is 223 ammunition. We never put a title in of what brand it was, but I did on the 308. So basically.
Was there, so what was, why?
I didn't have to, I don't have to put a brand name on the ammo, we just did, and since it's in there and now I wanna change it, I need to ask council, because they approved this inventory with that name in there. So if I wanna take that name out, even though I didn't initially have to have it, I need to ask council to do so. I'm just being transparent with them. I don't have to put the name of the ammunition in, It's not required. I just have to give a description of what it is and what the cost is.
Yeah, okay, I hear what you're saying. I know that when, AB 41 came out at first, the munitions were supposed to have their own paragraphs because they are,
And they do.
and so names were required, because then the brand name is a requirement in the law. So I will just stand on our
Okay.
position. You haven't moved me from our position
That's fine.
in terms of, you know, they were supposed to know the vendor because there are quality issues and repeatability, all these other things, familiarity, that go with that. Okay, so that was one question.
Mhm.
On the Throwbot, I'm just going in order here. On the Throwbot, does this, when you use the Throwbot, is it typical that it requires you to break windows or doors or glass sliding
On the
doors?
shotgun?
No,
the
for
robot?
the Throwbot.
It may, yeah, so we have rakes, so basically we have that munitions pole that's already listed in our inventory. Again, it doesn't have to be, but we put it in there. It has little teeth on it that can be used to break a window, and it's called raking it to get the glass pieces out of the way to protect officers if they had to make entry. And so that pole would be used to break a window in order to get that in. Same as when we put a drone inside a house, we have to break the window typically to get the drone inside.
So
So-
why this instead of just relying on the drone?
Because the drones, this actually can open a door. It can push open a door, a drone cannot. If a door is closed or slightly ajar, this cannot. A drone can't make it through that, at all.
This can break a door?
No, it can push open a door that's ajar where a drone cannot. So you have a door that's ajar in a bathroom, and this robot can push through. It has little tire tracks that can assist with that.
Okay, and then, related to in the same paragraph, you mentioned this COPS grant.
Yes.
Can kind of give me some background on what that is?
I'm gonna let Chief do that. She's an expert in
Yeah,
cops
so
grants.
it's a supplemental law enforcement grant that every agency in the county gets like a certain portion based on their population size each year. So based on city our size, we're one of the smallest in the county. We get at minimum $100,000 a year from the cops grant.
How much?
100,000 is the minimum amount, and then if there's surplus, it gets divvied out amongst all the different jurisdictions in the county. And it can be used for frontline law enforcement equipment and services.
It can't be used
So-
for salary. It has to be used for specific equipment, training, equipment.
Any kind of equipment, military or non-military?
It doesn't specify in it at all.
And then, you said 100,000 for Los Altos? Okay. And is that public, how much you've spent in that budget?
Yeah, so that also goes to council every year because we have to talk, get it cleared at council or approved by council, what types of items that we're gonna use the money for each
Okay.
year.
So that's a separate process.
Mhm.
So in other words, the usage for the Throwbot here, as called out in the NEA, you will also include it in the grant.
It's already been, the
So-
category's already been approved.
Yeah, with that, we don't have to specify exact equipment. It's typically like, we would specify the types of things that we want to purchase with it. So, I'm trying to think some of the things that we asked
So
for.
VR headset, we're looking at getting a VR virtual reality headset for officers for training purposes. That would be part of the COPS grant. So we've got permission for it. We haven't purchased it yet because we're still researching to see if that's a good use of our money.
Sure.
But that's one of the approved usages that council did give.
So
already.
how does that approval cycle for that, for the wish list you have for the COPS grant? How does that time with this? Is it before or after you do this? You said
The
it's
COPS
already
grant is
approved.
later, I think, maybe March timeframe, or no, it's later in the year than that. It would be after this.
So
But we
you're,
wouldn't go specifically when we're going to council for the COPS grant, we wouldn't have to say specifically, we're buying this
This
robot, we're buying this. It's more like categories of items that council approves.
but you already had this in the Throwbot in your head
Cause it meets one of the categories already approved by council.
the last time you did this,
Yes.
which was sometime in 25.
Because those are the same categories probably that we'll use for the next time when we go, because it has to be, frontline law enforcement equipment. That's like a requirement of the grant, so this would fall into that. So instead of using general fund money, we would use the grant money, that way it's not coming out of the general fund.
So why wouldn't you, is there carryover on this budget?
It goes year to year. You don't have to use it up by the end of the fiscal year. It carries over the following year.
My question then is, given that, why don't you spend this first before you spend general fund money
We would be. On this other items?
on any of these things, plus your non-MEO?
I'm not understanding. We use, well, a lot of these things we had prior to knowing we even had the COPS grant money. We actually
Okay.
just realized that 2 years ago
That's
that we
fair.
had the money, so we're now starting to use it.
Yeah.
Before, we didn't know we had it, and it was getting put into funds that it should have been placed in accidentally. So we weren't getting the money we were supposed to. Now we are. They're funneling it to the PD where it's supposed to be. It was just not understanding the grant and where it had to go to, and now we know. So now we're able to start using it. So this other stuff we could have bought, we bought some of our other stuff with this. Were the rifles paid partly out of this? Or was that? So
I believe so.
we are using it as much as we can. If it falls under it, then we try to use the COPS grant money, so it doesn't impact general fund, which is why we're using it for this.
Got it. So my concerns aren't as much about budget. My concern has to do with approvals, right? And visibility and transparency when it comes to military equipment. So I just want to make sure that by you doing a sensible thing, which is use that money, use the grant money before you use general fund money, that's just good tax policy and good expenditure
Yes.
policy. That we're not in any way circumventing the approval of
No.
purchase.
No, that's, we couldn't
We
purchase
can't
that.
purchase it.
Okay,
That's why
No.
we do this first, and then if it gets approved, then that was one of the things that next year, when we go to council for the COPS grant, we would,
And-
once that money is approved to be spent, this would
Okay.
be one of the top items on the list.
And if they say, we don't want you to have the robot, then we use that COPS grant
Yeah,
money
or
for
use
something
it.
else.
okay.
It's not the end of the world for us by any means.
Okay, now less lethal shotgun.
Yes.
I understand that you retired or got rid of the 10, but you still have one.
Yep.
And it's been shifted over to Chemical Pages. This is a technical question.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, I didn't zone in on that here. I didn't see the description. But my understanding of, these chemical launchers, especially from shotguns, is they can do a single shot or they can do a cone shot. A single shot being, I'm gonna go right to that target.
Mhm.
And a cone shot is multiple projectiles that go off in a cone. Those are the ones that have been shown to really, really hurt people because they're hard to aim. And in
Okay.
fact, in another agency, when they use those cone shots on the chemical munitions, they're supposed to shoot it at the ground in front of the person, and then they're getting kickback they didn't anticipate. And that's where chemical munitions are hitting people in the face. So I wanted to know how our shotgun works and what kind of munitions go in it specifically.
That's gonna have to be a question for my SWAT guy, who's my only
Okay.
chemical guy, which is Josh Cottrell. If you email him that question, he can certainly answer that for you. It's J Cottrell, Cottrell, RELL, at the same, Los
J.
Altos, yeah, J. I know I have the name of the cup here because it's on here, the munitions cup. Is in the inventory already because it was approved by council prior. I don't know if you looked at that cup, if it would describe the cone or the single shot, I'm not
Okay.
sure.
I did not look it up.
Sorry, I can find a text him right now. He's answering my other questions. So it either sprays or shoots single shot?
It doesn't, it's not a spray, it's a multi projectile and it shoots off in a cone. So it's not like liquid going like that. It's the projectile, the chemical agent projectile. I don't know what to call it. What do you call it? Chemical agent projectile?
Ammunition. It's a chemical munition. That's what the,
All right, so that's that. And then, this is all personnel, so I didn't miss anything in that. So that's very useful. Thank you very much for that. And then on the, no, you answered that already talking. Okay, now I can go to these other ones. anything that, you relate to SWAT in the policy, in the report, and in the policy? And because we have this joint
Yes.
powers with Mountain View. The question was this, do we have a SWAT armory here? Or do we keep all of our SWAT munitions and, associated weaponry at Mountain View?
Good question. Some of it we keep here and some of it Mountain View keeps for us. All of our officers' SWAT gear, their SWAT sniper rifles, their ammo, their bag, all of that stuff, our pole, the robot would be kept at our PD. Typically
What's
our
RPD?
our police department,
Oh,
our police department. We have a SWAT room that's locked only for SWAT personnel. Our chemical agents and a lot of our flashbangs are stored at Mountain View because they have the proper explosive storage for it. So we have the inventory, but we keep it at their location because of that, the containment of it.
Great, thank you. Next, training is pretty well described, and there seems to be a lot of training. There was nobody that pushed back on, the large amount of training. Everybody's like, yeah, training. But there was one concern, and that is in terms of how you train with chemical agents. And if you do, where does that happen? How do you contain the fumes? What's the environmental impact? Those are the questions related to.
So, that is, Josh is another great person for that, because he is my chemical agent SWAT operator. However, they only use those when they're at a range location. They have gas houses, or they can do it outdoors at one of the training facilities. For example, Alameda County has what's called a scenario village, which they have little pretend houses that they train in, so they can use them there. Alameda County also has a gas house, which is specifically designed for releasing the gas inside. It has a whole filtration system that goes up, and the officers enter into it with their gear on and then put the chemical agents in there. We do train once a year down at Camp Roberts, which is down in Paso Robles area on military base. We come on every day to the base. We have a whole scenario area there, and they do chemical munitions testing there, not testing, training is there as well. So they will be doing searches of the buildings, obviously empty cinder block training rooms.
Yeah, I've seen
And then the officers go through those, and that's where they do their chemical training. We do not, as far as I have ever known, do any chemical munitions training, like at an abandoned house that's gonna be torn down, so now we can go in. People have invited SWAT to go in and, use it for breaching, breaking down doors, building searches, because they don't care about the paint guns going everywhere, because the house is gonna be torn down. So we have had that offered to us before. We haven't done it in a couple of years. But again, there we would not be doing the chemicals, because then it gets out into the air and it can be impacting neighbors. So certainly not something that we do within a city limits.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Another question. Oh, the roof inspections, actually, yeah, I had this question too. The roof inspections.
Yeah.
Several comments, related to, and the reason it's personally important to me, because this happened to me, not with you guys. Insurance companies are being very, very invasive with drones and calling on people to replace roofs if they don't like something, or they're
Yeah.
gonna cancel their insurance policies, and in some cases they actually have. Like, you have a box close to your house, they cancel their policy. So the question is, in any way would the PD, because you actually have a roof inspection report in your use of the drone,
We did.
and they're very concerned that they're colluding with the insurance
So
companies.
let me be very clear on that. We were asked by Public Works to do a roof inspection of the History House. So it is a city building
For the
that
leak.
they wanted to get up on to see the top of it, because it's a very sloped roof, and they wanted to see what damage, because they're looking at roof repairs.
Yeah,
We actually went up 2 times, I believe, and did the same. They did inspection at the very beginning when we first had the drones. Well, they didn't have the pictures anymore. They didn't save them. So they asked us to go back up and do another one recently in January to do another assessment. It was for a city building only.
Mhm.
I do not believe we would cooperate, even if our building department said, hey, can you come and bring this out to a personal residence house to do drone? That does not fit our usage of the drones to do it over a personal house for a inspection. But in order for a city building to be inspected, that's what it was used for.
So the question is, that is the question, you're
Yes.
giving me the answer, but then the follow-up basically is, so how do I know that the next chief or the next captain won't do that? Is there a policy? Is there a use limitation for that kind of usage with outside agencies?
I don't have.
Cause I couldn't find one in your general policies. I'm more familiar with the use of force policy.
It would be under the drone policy is where it would be
Well,
at.
it's definitely not in there.
Well, as far as being able to be a tool for other
Other
city
city
departments.
departments, I think is how it's worded, yeah.
I think it's for other city departments.
There is a usage in there, but it's, I think that's what it is. I'll check now, but I think it's, can be used to assist other city departments. And that's the usage that we use it for. So there's not one for roof inspections, because that's
Too
we're not gonna
specific.
go around doing
Okay,
roof inspections.
I just know that that's a big community concern right
Yeah.
now, because a lot of people are in fact losing their insurance. I did not, but because we went and replaced our roofing, but if I didn't have, $50,000 in my savings account, we wouldn't have been able to do
You can
that.
assure them we will not be.
Okay. All right, the next one is, a lot of people have seen the hiring video that you did, the various multiple ones, but the one that caused concern was when you showed a team of cops all both
Swat it out.
swatted
That
out
was our SWAT
and they're
team.
going through looked like a regular home.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, why are they using that to hire? And this was not just one person, but multiple people.
So we tried very hard when we worked with our recruiting company that came out to basically highlight what kind of policing department we are. So most of our videos are about community engagement.
Yep.
It's about the dog, it's about all these things. However, SWAT is an offering that people who are going into law enforcement want to know that we have as an option for them. So if we put nothing in there about anything tactical, it looks like we are just strictly only the community friendly police, and then we don't have a SWAT team available for them. So yes, we put it in there as one video. It's not it's not in every single video, it is in one. We do have a SWAT team, we do have call outs. Those things do happen in Mountain View and Los Altos, and we have to have the personnel ready for that. And so, yes, we show that we do have a SWAT team. It is something that is highly desirable for people going into law enforcement, that they have that as an option as a team they might want to join in the future.
Yeah, the feedback in general is, because most people know that we don't have our own SWAT, but we jointly work with Mountain View. And, the concern just is one of the kind of cops you're gonna attract, and, they're looking for that, job, which is a necessary job, but probably much more necessary in other agencies that, they're gonna come here and they're not gonna really see the action. And so then we're gonna lose cop. So,
So we are I do our recruiting for our department. We are very, very careful about the fit we get in the officers who come in. We require officers to do a ride along before they even go into our background process. So you can do all the research you want on paper, you can watch all the videos you want, but if you haven't gone and done a ride along with an officer, you're not moving through our background process, because we want them to ride for 4 hours with an officer and get a feel for what our agency really is like. We're very clear in the interview process. We are not a fast-paced department. We don't have high crime. We don't have gang problems. You're not going to be doing pursuits on a regular basis. That's not the kind of police department we are. Because what we don't want to happen, Janine, is the same thing you're talking about. We invest $6,000 in a background. We invest $10,000 in an academy to have this officer come out and train for another 6 months. We've got a year invested in this person.
right,
And then they come in and they're like, oh my God, this is so boring. Where's the chases? Where's the
Right.
SWAT action? Why can't I sling my rifle on every call like it showed in San Jose's videos? We don't want that to happen, because then we're gonna lose them somewhere else, and we've just wasted a year of time and a lot of money.
Yeah.
So we're very, very cautious, and if you've noticed the people we brought in recently, if you've had any interaction with them, very much fit into the community type officer. But we still have SWAT. Now, for the first 5 to 6 years, you ain't getting on SWAT, because you have to learn how to be a patrol officer first. SWAT requires a lot of tactical knowledge, so we don't have people with 2 years on joining the SWAT team. Right, so,
I get
and we have 32 officers, we have 5 people on the SWAT team,
I get
it's
it,
not a lot.
I get it. The feedback simply is that it's the one thing they remember. And it's like,
I know.
wait, what about the scene at DeMartini's?
I know, there's a lot of other ones, and we specifically, if you watch some other, Epic is the company. If you watch San Jose's videos, oh my God, they have them at the beach. I'm like, there's not even a beach in San Jose, right? Like, we tried to make it as realistic as possible, but we did want to show people that that is an option. We're highlighting that, just like we highlighted motors, and we highlighted investigations and the dog a lot.
Okay, thank
So
you.
I get it. That's
Okay.
a balance we tried to get.
And then the last one, come back to chemical munitions. kind of along with what my compatriot over here said was, we've never used them, why do we have to have them?
Is that chemical munitions?
Chemical munitions.
We haven't used them yet, but I was on a SWAT call out 6 months ago, Mountain View, right on the border. It was on El Monte, right across from our bagel shop. Where somebody, he literally was in his apartment with his family and he started acting super crazy with a knife. His family left. Now we have a barricaded subject with a knife with nobody in the home. Not a problem, right? Mountain View officers walked away. Well, in the middle of the night, he cut a hole in the drywall into his neighbor's apartment and threatened them with a knife. And now he's gone into their apartment and now that's a crime, right? So now police are called back out. They were able to escape out. And so we spent probably 3 or 4 hours out there doing negotiations, trying to get him to come out of this neighbor's apartment. Chemical munitions were an option that were considered, but they were trying everything else they could. But if he wouldn't come out, at what point? How many hours in? Because we had to evacuate the entire apartment complex. We
But
had
weren't the people still in the room with him?
No, they left.
No, when he got into the neighbors.
No, they ran.
They ran.
This crazy guy comes with a knife in their house, they run at 4 o'clock in the morning, but now we've evacuated every apartment around it. These people can't get ready for work, their kids can't get ready for school, they can't get back in. We could say we'll be there for 5 days till he decides to come out on his own and gets hungry. That's not realistic for the families, that's not fair. Chemical munitions are a tool that were contemplated being used inside that apartment where he's the only resident to get him forced to come out. We didn't end up using it, he ended up coming out, but they did have kind of a timeline. Hey, if he doesn't come out by hour 8, then we're gonna have to look at using chemical
You
munitions.
can't just bomb the, I mean, go.
Well, you want me to bomb the
No,
place, Jimmy?
no.
I heard you say that, it's on the recording.
No, I did not mean with a bomb, I meant blast through the door.
So here's the issue with that, is now we have a suspect with a knife,
Shooting.
and now you're gonna enter into an apartment where you know someone has a knife inside and you have a gun. And he lifts that knife at you, and what's gonna happen?
Or
We're
you can
basically-
deploy gas and make him uncomfortable.
And
where
he comes out and he's disoriented and now we can take him into custody safely. So it's all about reducing the amount of force we're using on people. Chemical munitions reduce the force. Could we blast open the door and send officers in with our rifles? Sure. We could. He broke the law. He broke into someone's house with a knife and threatened them. But we don't want to have to get to that stage. Chemical munitions make it uncomfortable enough for someone that they will exit the residence to get away from the, I've been gassed before, she's been gassed before, right? It's uncomfortable. It's miserable for the time, but it's not dead, which is what that person could have been had we entered into the apartment. So it is the less lethal option to keep us from having to force a deadly force situation.
It's typically gonna be used by our SWAT.
It's our SWAT
Like, it's not gonna be used out on patrol.
Patrol
It's
doesn't even know
for-
how to use chemical munitions.
Exactly,
We
yeah.
have one person who is trained, he knows all the mathematical equations for the square footage of the room and how much munitions he can put in and how long it'll take to vent out. It's a whole 40-hour class he goes to learn the correct way to use it.
Is there an explosive aspect to these munitions,
No.
or is it like what we got hit with and
Yeah,
that just roll on the ground?
There's no explosion. They don't cause fires. The ones we use are baffled, they're called, so that they're inside a metal container, so they can't start fires, or they're much less likely to cause a fire because they're inside a metal container. They just spews out the gases.
Okay, so we don't have chemical grenades.
No, we don't have grenades. We have what are called,
Answering all these little questions.
it's a baffled munition meant for indoors. He texted this to me.
Okay,
From the top, it does spray out the gas. It sprays out the gas from the top. It's 25 grams of CS gas. And then the other one, the chemical shotgun, only shoots one munition at a time.
Oh,
And
okay.
it does not seem like it's the spray kind. It's a
Okay.
single shot munition projectile.
Mhm.
So that came from Josh.
All right, that's good. I think that was all, those are all my questions. You just double check? Yeah. Thank you.
It's 7:15. We're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna stop the recording.
I did not-
Give me. We're gonna start bombing people. Do you need approved bombs, Kelsey?
I did not.
No, sorry, it was not you, Eric. We have you on recording. It was not you.
But you bomb a party, that means you're blasting, you're going into the party, you're crashing the party.
the recording. Okay.
All right.